Hello, welcome to a video update of Video Horror Society. I'm Chris, the creative director at Hellbent.
And I'm Jeffrey Wong, the lead gameplay programmer designer at Hellbent on Video Horror Society.
He has a much longer title than I do. We thought we'd do a quick update to let everyone know sort of where we are with gameplay. We had done some announcements before on Discord, but recently people have been wondering what's going on with some of those things we announced a while back, and we thought we'd give an update where we are right now. It's a little faster than having to find Discord. So here we are. Jeff, a while back now, we talked about a number of systems we were updating on in the game to try fix monster balance, to try fix the new player experience, to try fix a bunch of different things.
Some pain points that the community identified where we love the feedback. We're trying to be as responsive as we can to those. So one of the things we talked about was our dynamic bounty system. So at the moment, players have been enjoying a fixed bounty system where playing as monster will give you flux now. So the reason we changed it from experience to flux is to incentivize team players who may not have tried monster to do so in the hopes of also getting more flux so that they can enjoy some new cosmetics from our Endless Summer catalog or the daily store. The idea is give something, a reason for everyone to try monster out. Ultimately, though, we would like the system to be fully dynamic, where it will give you a variable bounty based on the state of the matchmaking queue in your region and your current matchmaking rating to try to make it so that you're optimally positioned to get the fastest queue times and get the games going. And that's by far one of our biggest improvements we want to do, is have players always able to hop into a game quickly.
That's a much bigger system, which we're implementing.
Yes, we're still working on it.
It just takes a little longer. So we adjusted the current system to try to match what people were asking for.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So dynamic is still coming along.
Yes, the dynamic part of it is coming soon.
Perfect.
The other change we talked about already in. So our Book of the Dead change is now in. So players have noticed it only appears once at least one teen has died. So there'll always something for the dead spectrals to hunt around for. We talked quite a bit about possible banishment changes. So we're still experimenting with them, but one of the ones that is sort of leading the pack in terms of things we're likely to move forward with is creating that scream shockwave when the monster returns from being banished.
And there was a lot of concern, I think, from people that might be too powerful or it might switch the balance too much. And we are testing internally. And we will play test a lot of it and make sure it's really balanced to our opinion before we release that. So.
Exactly. And yeah, there's other considerations there. The idea was we want to give a monster feeling of empowerment when they come back. They just lost, I guess, a quarter of their life bar is the way you could view it. We want them to be able to come back and not have to deal with immediately getting banished again if they choose a bad place to spawn or the teens really predict where they're going to be.
It's a pretty bad place to be. You just get banished and you pick a spot you think that might even be safe, not even trying to be aggressive, and get banished again by accident. It's a pretty bad place to be for a monster.
Yes, and we're aware of always we think about both sides. So one other adjustment we're thinking of making alongside this is to give it kind of a passive speed increase to team when they're prone, so that monster can't just come back where they thought a teen was knocked down and the teen wouldn't have been able to make any distance from that spot.
Giving you better ability to get out of there.
Get out of the monster zone.
Yeah. So we'll talk more. There's another feature we're adding to Monster that we'll add to a little bit later, but we can talk. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's go through the next piece.
Yeah, so those are the banished ones. We also talked about our plague system changes, which are in now. So we have our recharge mechanic was replaced with fetching the plagues from the beyond. I think we've had some really positive feedback on that. Always giving monster little milestones to work towards and little bursts of power here and there.
There were some concerns, I think, early on when we announced it that the random plagues might not be fun, but I found they've been really good so far. I mean, when you get a perfect plague, it feels great. When you get an average or okay plague that suits your situations, sometimes you get one you can't use right away, but there's still different uses for it. Another thing we talked about was the new busted status, which is already in the game. So you want to talk a little about that?
So that was put in to help address issues where certain matches could go on really long, where teams were were running off to heal, and it would just kind of hit and run tactics, and it would be drawing out games to 35 plus hits, going 40 plus minutes. So we think that this change has been received really, really well. It's had a significant impact on matches not going overly long. Kind of forcing teens to play a little more aggressively and letting the monster wear down teens that are really trying to just turtle up and heal up repeatedly. So
yeah, I've been watching the match times, and the match times have come down significantly. They're much more in the zone we want them to be, and I mean, there's still some matches with some longer gameplay.
Yeah, it still happens
but
a little
I
bit.
mean, that to me is always a good match, but I know people didn't want to see those really long matches, and we've definitely brought
Especially
them
all the
down.
time.
Everything's sub 30 minutes now. We're not seeing any really long matches. There's some really, I think it's been a really healthy change personally.
Yeah, and we're not done with it. We're always tuning it, so we're listening to feedback. We'll see if is it the right number of hits. Do we need to make any adjustments? So we're still we're not closing the book on it, but we're happy with how it's been
we're
received
watching
so
it
far.
right now. We're seeing how it's balancing in, and we're seeing how gameplay changes. Every time we put something new and everything changes, people adjust, and it takes a while. We need to really make sure it's
We don't
right.
want to make too many changes too quickly because we have to see the impact of it. There are a lot of interconnected systems in the game, so we have to make sure that things stay stable
that's so
and fun.
true.
For
Everything in the
both
game is
sides.
connected. If you change one thing, even on monster or teen side, it
affects
can have like a
everything
ripple effect through so many other systems.
Exactly.
So I think that was the main systems we talked about in the previous update.
Yeah, and of course, Deathwire came out. That was huge. We've been really loving to see the positive response from Deathwire and his design. With the Death Drift power not having a cooldown, we have the really fast cooldown and multiple charges on Voltage Vice, the fast cooldown on Beam Matrix. So Deathwire is a really highly available power kit where he's able to use his powers all the time to kind of get in. And we've noticed that the community has been wanting more of that. And so we're definitely taking the lessons from Deathwire to future monster designs, and also as we tune existing monsters. And you've already seen a bit of that with the adjustments we made to Werewolf, who had the longest cooldowns in the game.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest feedback I receive a lot is monsters hated being held hostage to waiting for their cooldowns. So we're trying to address that. Well, Deathwire is much faster with cooldowns. And then we're trying to address that just moving forward with all the other monsters in ways we can to try to speed it up so you're not sitting there waiting for your cooldowns to refresh while the teens are grouping together and doing things. So
Exactly. And we're also looking to give monsters more interactivity with the world, which is what we saw with the vending machine change, where you could attack them, take them offline, give the monster something. It doesn't really detract from what their main goal is, hunting down the teens, but some secondary objective where they can delay the teens in a more lower stress manner, and if anything, get a bit of stress out by just smacking those machines.
Punching machines. We're also, I mean, the machines are the first implementation of interaction. We're adding some more levels of implementation moving forward. It's like I said, it has to come in sort of level and balanced. We can't just throw too many things on all at once. So we're putting a system in, testing it internally. If we are happy with that test internally, we move it outward as quickly as we can so people can start playing with it. Then we see how, I mean, obviously our team is smaller than the community. The community is huge playing it, and we see a lot faster feedback from that. So.
Yeah, a lot of things we learn just from seeing thousands of people playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun though watching that first interaction with monsters, because they hate machines that power up in front of them. They just want to punch them and destroy them. And it's a risk reward, which is awesome to give the monster some interaction, but it's not at no cost to them. Like I've seen monsters take time to punch both machines in a row and get killed by a weapon.
Get lured into an ambush.
Yeah, exactly.
So in addition to the stuff we've already done, there's still a lot of things we want to do in the future to improve monster experience and just improve the game in general.
Yeah, a lot of things we're testing right now internally. Some things we like, some things we don't like, but we're testing a lot and building a lot right now. So do you have some stuff we can talk about there?
Yeah. So monster perks, for example, we hear like they're only 12 at the moment. So because obviously there was fewer monster perks than there were teen perks, because we had fewer monsters than we do have teens. But also issues where certain monster perks didn't feel as powerful or as impactful as we'd like. So we already saw a bit of improvements to that with the Deadly Bite changes, but can expect more of those kind of changes for some of the lesser used monster perks. We want to make sure that all of them have a place in the game and that they're enjoyable to use. But also, monster players would want some more versatility in how many perks they can equip. So
everyone was a little. Monster players were a little frustrated that teens get discounts and monsters don't get discounts.
so
And there was a reason for that, because
there was.
monsters are completely unique.
Yes.
And teens have specialties. So
yes, exactly. The potential system for teens so that they have their own specialties. So monsters didn't have specialty perks. They were meant to be universal for all monsters, but it still is nice to have something you can earn at the end of each act, and allows you to have a bit more perk points to work with.
A little more flexibility in your build.
Exactly. You can squeeze in some more lower cost perks to round out your build. So one thing we're working towards is adding perk discounts for monsters. So the way it would work is, after you complete each monster act in their journey, you'll unlock a discount coupon, which works similar to the potential discount you get on teens, except this one will apply to any perk you equip and will give you 2 points off of that perks cost. So essentially, once you're maxed out in monster, you'll actually have 36 points to work with rather than 30, which will easily let you fit in another rank 1 perk, or maybe a higher rank of an existing perk that you really like, just to give monster more flexibility. And I think that'll be even more enjoyable as the perk pool for monster continues to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that'll be a really good change.
Yeah, that's coming soon. We're also looking at some problematic hitboxes with the beam weapons. So we have situations where the monster would get attacked from there was just a small gap in a box or something, or the cover isn't working quite as much as it should. So
not as we intended.
Yeah, there's these little cracks where, and so we're looking at adjusting the way beam weapons work so that they require a wider space to actually shoot through.
And we made some adjustments specifically to the holy staff, because it still was being held very high. Yeah. So now we have it more aimed forward,
and that more aimed
animation
really
looks great, but it also solves that problem where people are in the warehouse and they're just peeking over the top edge of the stairs and hitting the monster in a spot where the monster really can't see the teen at all. So
exactly. We want to avoid those kind of cheesy feeling interactions, but there's more weapon adjustments than that we're looking at. So some of the weapons, especially we're looking at, again, I don't want to go into too many details here, but we are looking at some of the solar flare issues, Curse Sword and Infernal Eye. Those are the ones we think identified as they could use a little more tuning.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people have mentioned certain weapons being OP or being out of balance, and we're listening to that.
I think overall our weapon balance is pretty good, but obviously there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, and I mean the meta changes. People play differently, and they
discover new things.
I mean, I remember when some of these weapons were introduced, and people thought they had no use, and now they're finding they're too powerful. So it's an interesting. Now we're making changes based off of what we learned over time. So.
Exactly. So the only way to learn it is to just have thousands of players playing it over thousands of hours to get to see what can be kind of pushed farther than we intended. Another thing we're looking at is so again, it's been talked about a lot in the community with ambushes from teens. So one thing we've been playing with many ideas. We've been hearing feedback on ideas. We're definitely listening, but again, it's a delicate system. We have to make sure that teens have viable counterplay options even when they're by themselves, and they could sometimes be completely by themselves if all the other teens are dead. But there is an issue where with certain weapons you can be really, really quiet near the monster, and they'll have no idea you're there, and then you pop out and hit them. So we are looking at adding some passive ambient sound cues to certain weapons. So you're holding a cross, you're hiding in a corner somewhere. The monster, if they're close enough, will be able to tell that there's someone there with a weapon. And yes, and that won't be the only weapon. There'll be quite a few of the weapons are going to be
The worst case is someone is hiding within 15 feet of the monster and pops up behind the desk or something. That's the worst case, because the monster really has no way to react. Exactly. They have no sound cue. They get that ambush, and it doesn't feel like it feels like it's an opportunity-based kill rather than a skill-based kill. It's more of a wait and camp to kill someone. But I mean, monsters seem to do well against things that are projectiles from a distance. Anytime they have an awareness that there's someone around. So we're trying to give some sort of awareness, but also not make it. The one thing we won't do is we won't ever identify a teen that has no weapon. We're not gonna make noise for the team when they have no other than the breathing, the breathing is a giveaway. When people get close enough, they can hear it,
and especially when they're injured. Yeah.
So what do you think? For a noise, you think it would be, how would it compare to like breathing? Would it be loud, like
Yeah,
distance-wise,
so
volume-wise?
for breathing, you can hear if they're uninjured out to about 4 meters. It starts to get really quiet. When you're injured, it goes out to like 10 meters. So we're thinking of somewhere in between those two for those weapons. So you won't be as loud as if you're an injured teen, but you'll definitely be easier to hear than if you were uninjured.
So if you're an injured teen with a valuable weapon, you're going to be...
Yeah, hopefully it'll just be as loud as your injured teen.
Sure.
But yes, that's the idea. Other thing we're looking at is just more of a pain point for monster. Consecutive stuns are going to be having a diminishing return on the second stun onwards, so that the monster won't be down for a really, really long time if they're stunned repeatedly, because it didn't feel great.
People can use 2 to 3 weapons to hold a monster in position if they time them well. They can do it to just grief the monster, but they can also do it to bring someone with the weapon to the monster, and that just feels like it's longer than the intended. So so there's basically
a griefing thing you can do.
You get a bit of a shortened stun each time you get consecutive.
Yeah, no, so it only applies to consecutive stuns. So if the monster's up and attacking, you can stun them again. You'll still get.
And that's only, I imagine, in a short window.
It's in a short window.
Yeah, it's not going to just, doesn't linger on. If you wait 3 seconds, basically you're back to a normal stun.
You're back to good, and you can stun the monster again and get the full value out of it. Another thing we're looking at just to improve monster toolkit is giving them the ability to lay their own pings. So the idea would be, okay, well, if you're pinging, who are you pinging for? And this would be basically leaving markers for yourself. So there are definitely times where it's strategic for monster to make note of a certain location. For example, if they spot the Book of the Dead after it's appeared on the map. If they've seen a teen at a crafting station, they want to remember that team was there and then come back to revisit it later, because teens often will go back to finish off a weapon after they've been chased away. No
matter what percentage they've earned on a station, they don't want to give that.
Yeah, they don't want to give it up. They want
lost cost
finish
fallacy that they think it's worth crafting there. I mean, maybe it is, but it depends where you were at it with. But I catch myself a lot of times running back to the same station. I get back there thinking I've got good progress, and I've only got about a third done on the weapon, and
And other situations, say there's a dead teen, you must, they might get chosen to be revived, so I'm going to leave a marker here. So the monster leave quite a few markers on the map. They'll be visible through the wall, so they can basically have these reference points, just to give monster another, to ease the burden of memory on them and give them just another tool they can use. And when you place them, you can see your omens flying around as well.
And that's why we're increasing the speed also of movement for teens when they're down. So if the monster does leave a ping, the teens won't be aware if there's a ping placed.
No, they won't see
If they
them.
leave a self ping like that, then the teens know that they could be marked. So they might want.
Prone,
they can't mark the teen; they can mark the location.
Exactly.
But the teen has a faster prone speed, so they can get away from there.
They can crawl away from there if they suspect.
Not when the minute they pop up, have a monster appear on top of them, right? So
exactly. And there's plenty more that we're looking at. This is basically what we want to cover in this one update.
Yeah.
But there's definitely stay tuned for more changes moving forward.
Great. Like I said, we're doing this a lot more often, and we know that we've been too quiet because we're just busy working on the next thing. We're making it a regular part of our schedule now to give updates, a lot more video updates, because I think it's faster, more immediate, and you can sort of understand. We can talk through more of the issues. We'll probably at some point take some questions. We're just starting this.
Yep.
So it's a learning process for us. Yep. But that's our first update, and look forward to one again coming up soon. Thanks, Jeff.
No problem.